Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Neighborhood News Network, the home of citizen journalism. I am Andy DeBala, and I am here with the none other than George Webb. George Webb, how you doing today?
Great, Andy. I thought you were going to go, let's get ready for news.
I do have to do one of those one time, get all
yeah,
amped up and get the audience pumped up a little bit.
yeah. Well, today, if not today, then never. I mean, we've got so much stuff today. It's incredible. So I can't wait to get started.
Yeah, we got some pipe bomber stories. Thomas Massey did an interview on Matt Gaetz yesterday, like talking about the pipe bomber and where he works. We're gonna get into Alina Habba, or Donald Trump. Finally, he heard George Webb. He's been watching the show, and he's dumping Alina Habba. He's moving on. He's looking for a new law firm. We got Blackberries all over Ukraine. They seem to be using Blackberries to communicate. And In-Q-Tel is still involved in the cybersecurity in Ukraine through the Blackberries. So we got a lot of George Webb-esque stories coming to the forefront of the news today. So we got a lot to talk about. But first, we're going to dig into the Capitol Police pipe bomber. Do you want me to play that video? You can set the Thomas Massey video up while I put some graphics on the screen here.
Well, it's either an attempt on the life of the vice president elect, which is a something that the Presidential Succession Act. If you attempt on the life of the transition in power, it's a continuity of government event. Dick Cheney added that to continuity of government. So it's either that, or else it's a fake false flag hoax. It can't be one or the other. It's either one of those two things, and I'll just leave it at that. And that's my Substack from yesterday. And isn't the great Peter Duke with the graphics of the orange hats running out of the Capitol with the Ukraine server? Isn't that great?
That is a wonderful graphic picture. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and that one's actually probably worth 1,000,000 right there.
That's perfect.
If we could get that one spread around the country a little bit more and just highlight the orange hats and the Ukrainians, and get that on the forefront of the news, that would solve a lot of problems. But I do have this the clip here of Thomas Massey actually appearing on the show. He's talking about the Capitol Hill pipe bomber that was involved with walking up to the DNC headquarters where Kamala Harris was at, and alerting a police officer that there was a pipe bomb in a backpack or something in the area. And Thomas Massey gets into that person that alerted the police is actually a Capitol police officer. George, you want to talk about that a little bit before we play the video, or just let it rip?
Well, also Luke Rosiak's out with a story again. Anytime I see Luke Rosiak getting brought up in profile, it's to do a signal reduction. He's the guy who, when I find the Blackberries at Imran's house, we have Taggart saying it's Blackberries. We play it at show all the time. He says, no, Taggart said it was a car radio in his book, chapter 7. So he's signal reduction. But even Luke Rosiak says with the Daily Wire, even he says that the guy had government ID and they didn't interview him. Now, if I was to go attempt the life, by putting a pipe bomb at the DNC, and that is a direct threat on the life of the vice president-elect, I would think the FBI would bother to interview me. I think they would bother to enter my, 402 or 302 is the interview notes. I think they would bother to send that over to Capitol Hill to evaluate the J6. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So why wouldn't you interview the person who tried to kill the vice president? And it's like I said, it can only be two things. It's either an attempt on the life of the president-elect, vice president-elect, kicking in continuity government, or it's a fake, it's a hoax, it's a false flag.
Mm-hmm. And the FBI and this $500,000 reward, the one that they're looking for this suspect, they say that there was actually one in the Republican national headquarters as well. Do you know anything about that? Yeah. I haven't actually heard about the Republican side of things.
Yeah, this is this was actually put, now again, Deep Blackberry may be wrong. But his story is from down here in Florida. There's a guy named Congressman Wexler. They put in this biosurveillance bill. It's written by a guy named Pete Zimmerman. And Pete Zimmerman is a nuclear physicist, but he writes a story about how 19 terrorists can create a nuclear bomb. All right. And so this is the guy who works directly for Joe Biden, right, at the time of the anthrax attacks. And again, what the Deep Blackberry is saying is the Blackberries existed before 9/11. The Blackberries existed before 9/11, and there's the Secret Service car there, the black SUV, which is the Secret Service detail for Kamala Harris, sitting next to a Metro Police car, all morning, right? They know the bomb is there, but yet they wait until 1:07. There's a real important reason they wait till 1:07, because that's the yellow orange hats go over and the Proud Boys go over the gates at 1:00. Now you can tie what's happening here to the Capitol. If you have a Capitol police officer discover it, right? And now you can say, as part of the insurrection, the life of the vice president there's been an attempt on the life of the vice president. Now we're going to throw this thing into continuity of government. And I've written a lot about continuity of government. Okay. Yeah, there I am.
I'm just playing the video. So at the same time, this pipe bomb is being said, George Webb is reporting about these orange hats storming the Capitol. And here's a video of the orange hats.
And I'm following the orange hats, and I'm talking about the orange hats because that's the team that's going to go in and get this server. Again, I say this server predates 9/11. I've been given the impression that it was there a long, long time in the Senate Sergeant of Arms for covert actions, but it could go all the way back to 1999. Right. And we'd have to get records about how far back this goes. But we know Joe Biden wrote the Biosurveillance Act. We know Pete Zimmerman wrote it for him in the Capitol, in that office after the 9/11 attacks. So it at least goes back to October 2001. Joe Biden writes two things. Pete writes two things for him: the Global Biosurveillance Act and also the National Stockpile for vaccines, for anthrax vaccines. So there's no choice about should we keep the anthrax vaccine going or not. Joe Biden usurps that authority, and the bill that Pete Zimmerman writes doesn't get approved till 2003, but that authority is still going. That's at least when the Blackberries, encrypted Blackberries, got there. I say they go back to 1999, right? And the reason I say that is, how do you get all these hijackers training in all these flight schools and they can't speak English? How do you get them into flight schools? How do you move them around the country? How do you move their cars around the country without them being intercepted? You have to have shepherds and chaperones, and that's Imran Awan's job. So that's why I'm here in Winter Park. There has to be somebody shepherding them through this process. They can't even speak English. They stick out like a sore thumb wherever they go. So we talked about the P-Tech Blackberries might have done 9/11. That'll be another discussion, but you get the point here, Andy, is these servers have been up there at Capitol Hill a long time, and they get thrown. This system gets thrown into motion anytime there's continuity of government declared. We know that happened with the attempt on the life of George Bush the morning of 9/11 at Longboat Key. There was 5 or 6 journalists that came up in a van that made an attempt on his life. Dan Hopsiger writes about it in Longboat Key the morning of. That shows premonition. That shows a foreshadowing of 9/11 before any towers or any planes are hit. So I say this server and these servers existed before 9/11, and that the P-Tech Blackberries actually were critical in terms of organizing the hijackers, but that's not important for this story. All that's important is we know that there's a server there since 9/11, since Joe Biden went in. What happened is Pete Daschle was going to do a 9/11 committee, look into the 9/11, investigate the hijackers. They immediately sent a letter to him in Hart Office Building and shut down completely his whole team, upended and uprooted his whole team and moved him to a gymnasium in Virginia. And the person who took over command was Joe Biden and Pete Zimmerman. And they went into this Senate Sergeant of Arms office at the Capitol and wrote this first biosurveillance bill with no congressional support, complete continuity of government. So I know continuity of government started from October 2001, at least, but I say it goes back to 1999 with Presidential Decision Directive 62 that David Petraeus put in, and that's when it started. But we'll see. But for the purposes of this discussion, there's no question, there's no speculation that continuity of government was initiated here. And why? Is the Capitol where the continuity of government is initiated? Because if the vice president and the president are taken out at the White House, the Speaker of the House is next in line in the succession. And that's where all of the houses of Congress need to pass the emergency resolutions and budgets. That's why it's there in this office. That's why this Senate Sergeant of Arms is so pivotal in this story. But I'll let Thomas Massey tell the story. But I wrote all this up in my Substack this morning. I lay it out point by point by point. But it's so important to establish that this continuity of government started on 9/11. Dick Cheney wrote the rules before 9/11. It's detailed in a book called Raven Rock Raven Rock.
Did they kind of lose this continuity of government once Trump took office and this was regaining control completely of it?
No.
Or is they still have had it while Trump was in office?
No. This is still in play.
Yeah,
this is still in
Pompeo's and all the people.
No. All the way back to 9/11. All the way back to 9/11. You can now establish a listening post at the RNC for terror activities or insurrection activities. You can now establish a listening post at the DNC, right? You now are allowed to offer and dangle oil rights for the Keystone Pipeline. You can now do all kinds of operations against people where you want their oil fields, you want their ranch, you want their. This is what Seth Rich was doing with the Keystone Pipeline with Scott Klebe. You could try to get their farms, etc. This threw open the floodgates for whatever they wanted to do on Capitol Hill, whatever they wanted to do. And this was not known by any of the presidents since George Bush. I'm sure Obama knew something about it, but Joe Biden was the key Democrat through this whole 20 years. And the reason why they have the burglaries on the night that Trump wins is because they got to get the equipment out of there. The reason why it gets over to Imran and Ron's house is they got to get the equipment out of there. People are going to start coming in going, hey, what are these encrypted things that say Senator Sergeant of Arms? What's going on with those? So we'll get back to the story, but I just wanted to lay that out. That's all laid out in the Substack this morning, but we go back to the Massey interview and we can take it from there.
Yep, and Biden likes there's many stories where Biden's talking about continuity of government, so that seems to be a play on him have an emergency and keep and take control, just like they did with the Patriot Act and a bunch of other stuff. But here's the Matt Gaetz interviewing Thomas Massey about the DNC/RNC pipe bomber that alerted the police at Kamala Harris's building the day of January 6th.
You recently met with Capitol Police.
Correct. Today.
And what did you learn in that meeting?
I learned that backpack guy, January 6th backpack guy, not to be confused with January 5th backpack person. Backpack guy was a non-uniform, plainclothes police officer in the employ of the Capitol Hill Police.
The person who found the pipe bomb, the person who D'Antuono, who was leading the investigation, say, oh yeah, the person who found it, it'd be investigation 101 that they would be a suspect initially until ruled out. You're saying that person was an undercover, plainclothes Capitol Police officer, and the Capitol Police confirmed that to you today.
They confirmed that to me today. Yes. So by the way,
what does that mean to you?
Well, it heightens some of my concerns and reduces some of the other concerns. Okay. One of the concerns that's heightened was, trying to give the Secret Service and the Metro Police Department the benefit of the doubt when they took 4 minutes, they finished their lunch before they went and dealt with this pipe bomb. I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt and think that, well, if it's just some random passerby and he said, hey, there's something shiny over there, could be a lawn sprinkler, not sure, maybe want to check it out. But that's not what it was. It was a person who was, they say, again, when I relate this to you, I'm relating what the Capitol Police have told me. They say it was a Capitol Police officer who found this bomb, and that he told them it was a bomb. And he radioed it in, said, we've got the device. We found another device. Remember, here's the other just amazing timing, is that the first pipe bomb, the one at the Capitol Hill Club, now they call it the RNC pipe bomb, but they really should be calling it the Capitol Hill pipe bomb. I mean, the two buildings are next to each other, but it was like
the Capitol Hill Club, which is an entity where Republican members of Congress socialize and fundraise.
Right. The reason I'm making that distinction is Darren Beatty, who's done amazing work on this. Okay, he's the guy who's said, hey, you should be asking some of these questions. And I said, you know what? You're right. I will be asking those questions. He points out that the RNC DNC narrative was made up after the fact. It was really the Capitol Hill Club DNC narrative that they should be talking about. But it just sounds a lot better that, oh, we knew to go look at the DNC once we found one at the RNC.
Interesting.
Well, if you thought somebody was going to blow up the RNC, and don't they hate Republicans? Why would they also want to blow up? Anyways, so, they come down, this plainclothes police officer who had been in the vicinity of that one, they had just found that. The timing is remarkable because it was found 5 minutes before the breach of the bicycle racks at the perimeter of the Capitol. Just a miraculous timing that, would have provided exactly the right timing to distract. After sitting in an alley for 17 hours, found by somebody who says she was going to go do her laundry. Okay. Then they respond to that. They secure the area. And 15 minutes later, they find this other bomb. Like, what miraculous timing.
Well, I definitely don't believe that the Capitol Police would purposefully go and set a bomb anywhere that could potentially blow up and do anyone harm. I am not there that they would do something like that. However, you seem to point out in questioning with the ATF director that this wasn't an operational bomb that was going to blow up and hurt anybody. Remember that?
Right. The assistant director in charge, he went on TV and said these were operable bombs, and offered a reward, put out a message that they played on TV. And so in the beginning of my transcribed interview with him, he still maintained that they were operable.
Well, hold on. We're going to get the ATF director's take on that, questioning from Congressman Massey. Take a listen.
Also, I see that you're cooperating with the FBI, the ATF is, on the January 6th pipe bomb investigation. What can you tell us about how that's going?
Obviously, that's a significant matter. It is an ongoing criminal investigation, and so I'm not going to comment on an ongoing criminal investigation.
Were those pipe bombs operable?
Again,
the ATF is the expert.
Again, it's an ongoing criminal investigation, and under longstanding policy, I cannot comment.
And we've just had a whole committee for 2 years that investigated ongoing investigations, so I'm not accepting that answer from you. We need to know these things. Do you know how the pipe bomb was discovered at the DNC? We've been told how it was discovered at the RNC. And according to a press release from the FBI, you're working with them on this investigation.
Respectfully, I understand your disagreement, but I cannot comment because it is an ongoing criminal investigation.
It's an ongoing cover-up.
So helpful.
It's their policy not to comment on ongoing cover-ups.
Yeah, it seems like it.
So here's what I've come to know since that interview too. You chase some leads. I believe, based on discussions with police, with
Do you want to keep going in this, George Webb, or keep going?
Well, I just want to make a comment that this is something we've said for a long time. I've been to the Capitol Hill Club many times. Commander John B. Wells, with other folks there, going in there one night, McCarthy in front of me. So this is a listing operation. And when people remember AmScam was the non-electronic version of this eavesdropping, where you're opening letters and now you're having people go in and offer a plant, Middle East rich oil sheikhs go in and offer to build a plant in this congressman's neighborhood, and here's some cash, and then the congressmen take take the suitcase of money and pull it over to them. And that nailed about, 3 or 4 congressmen. This is the electronic version of that. And the dangle was Scott Klebe and Seth Rich offering oil, the line that was going to be drawn for the Keystone pipeline across North Dakota, South Dakota, and into Nebraska. Was the XL pipeline was the sort of the leg of the hypotenuse and the long side of the triangle, and the hypotenuse of the triangle was the Keystone pipeline, and this was the dangle. Now there's probably many other things over 20 years. I'm just familiar with this one, which is, hey, could you guys move it over a little bit? I got 500 acres over there, and even if it crosses a little bit of a farm, the whole farm gets condemned, and you pay out farmland, which is growing soybeans, and now you get from the government oil prices for all 500 acres, right, or all 1,000 acres. So you go 10 times to 100 times in value, and then boom. So this was a way. And then once you put in a donation, once you go to the Capitol Club and have a conversation, right, under your breath with this, or you put a donation into the RNC. I believe the spying operation was on both by the DNC spying. Remember, I'm the guy who's been saying that there's a spy ring in Congress doing this since 2017, walking by the Capitol Club every day. The Capitol South subway gets out right across from the Capitol Club. I can't count how many times I've been there. So this is what I've said for 6 years, and now 7 years now, and now it's coming out that there was a listening operation in this club. What they're trying to do is put the pipe bomb there, so now that they can destroy the evidence, now that they can take the server and say, okay, we're going to destroy this evidence, right? But this has been a listening operation since at least 2001. So we can keep playing. I think this is very instructive for people because they're seeing a lot of the things I said coming in right now.
FBI and with former ATF who now works for Capitol Police, that the bombs went to Quantico for inspection, not to the ATF. Now he could have just told me that in the hearing.
Oh,
right?
Interesting.
He could have said, "Well, we didn't look at the fragments after we blew these things up. It was actually FBI at Quantico looked at them." But he didn't. He wouldn't even tell me that. So he either doesn't know it or just is so stuck on it, like a broken record on it's our longstanding policy not to comment.
So we're in this meeting last night, and one of our Republican colleagues turns to you as you're explaining how long it's been that this has been an open investigation, these videos that show the strange behavior of a person we now know was a plainclothes Capitol Police officer. And one of our Republican colleagues kept pressing you and saying, but Thomas, why would they do this? Why would anyone try to plant these phony fake devices in order to create confusion that day? And, we don't know the answer to that question in all honesty. Do you have a working theory?
Yeah, well, again, I don't know who did it, but I can tell you a consequence of this, because this is buried in the back of the January 6th committee report, that there was a call to bring more bike racks to the Capitol. They had hundreds of them loaded up, ready to bring to the Capitol to reinforce the Capitol. And it turns out those never made it because this DNC pipe bomb was discovered, and they set up a perimeter and blocked them from coming.
So if there was a booby trap intended to have people commit a technical violation of federal criminal law with no intent to break the law, that was facilitated perhaps by the very interestingly timed discovery of these two devices.
Yeah, whether there was intent or not, the result of this, according to the January 6th committee, was that it made it easier to breach the Capitol because the reinforcements couldn't be brought to the Capitol.
Thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you're subscribed to.
Well, and I'll just say that the continuity of government's the most obvious thing, because they did it exactly the same way in 2001 with the anthrax attacks at the Hart Office building. Again, 400 meters, less than 400 meters, 300 meters, 200 meters away from this exact spot. If you remember, I positioned myself, Andy, with Ann Vandersteel on this side, anticipating something by the Senate Sergeant of Arms, which was directly behind me. It was only till I got a call from Ann that said, hey, there's coffee down here and there's also some commotion, right? And I went around and I got that footage that showed the first bicycle gate, the second bicycle gate, and the third bicycle gate. And I got the footage of those orange hats. They all formed up in a military regiment style. They all put hats on in a military style. They all smoked a cigarette in military style. They all threw their cigarettes out all in unison. And then they come marching in with the Proud Boys. Here we go. You might want to, if you want to play the video, or it's the secret of January 6th, these three gates.
Okay, we got some rough customers coming in, so this should be interesting. We're going to have some action here, I think, pretty quickly. They're definitely going in the Capitol. They're going in the Capitol. They're still in the Capitol. They're definitely going over the gates. Get the doors in! We had a group that came in with orange hats that were looking like they wanted to make a statement politically by going over the gate. They went over the first gate. Now they're at the second gate. And we saw the group form. We came down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we saw the group with the orange hats form. They formed on this lawn area over here, on this grassy knoll over here, came down this street here, and then went through the gate there, over the first fence, then the second fence. You heard him say it. They're coming in.
So there you have it, George Webb. Luckily, you were there on the scene, and yeah, we do remember Biden getting into office and just signing like a bunch of executive bills. And you were talking about it in your Substack. I'll put that on the screen in a second, where they were putting like the mask mandate bills and stuff in order so they can continue on with kind of overruling the land. We all know when coronavirus and the pandemic was going on, the government had a lot of authority over us, and we couldn't go to stores. There was what was it called when they were like, someone got sick at a restaurant or something, they would go in and shut the restaurant because they'd like link a chain of people going there and everything. The whole world was shut down. You couldn't go to churches. So this is what George Webb is talking about, the continuity of government that happened when Joe Biden took over presidency.
Yeah, and I think it never was for the capital area and the capital district. And it's called the JTF, the Joint Task Force Washington area, the Joint Task Force. This is the bill that came out of it when Joe Biden went into the Senate Sergeant of Arms in 2001, October. Again, not my words. This is Pete Zimmerman's words. But they passed this bioweapons safety bill, nuclear and bioweapons safety bill. And part of that was stockpiling. And then part of that was biosurveillance. And part of the surveillance was, now I listen into all the phone conversations, right, going in and out of the RNC and the Capitol Hill Club, and I listened to all the conversations going in and out of the DNC, right, for extremist type activities. And so I don't think this ever stopped. I think Imran's here 2 years before this. PDD 62, Presidential Decision Directive signed by Bill Clinton in 1999 is 2 years before this. David Petraeus putting this system in is 2 years before this. I say it happened 2 years before this. But you can see exactly the same things Joe Biden signed in the Senate Sergeant of Arms in 2001 are exactly the same things he signs the first days on the job with all of these executive orders for continuity of government. And that's right when the vaccine comes out. If you remember, that's just as the vaccine is coming out.
Yeah, and they pushed the Trump J&J vaccine to the side and like made it so the FDA like didn't reauthorize its approval, and that's when the mRNA vaccine started to really be pushed. But I have on the screen here from the administration of Joseph R. Biden, Executive Order 13987, organizing and mobilizing the United States government to provide a unified and effective response to combat COVID-19 and to provide United States leadership on global health and security. So here he is providing those COVID-19 lockdown orders as soon as he takes office.
Yeah. So, this, I still say, now we went out to the PTEC headquarters. That was this sort of the IT guys. The Pakistani guys were sort of the IT guys for the hijackers, right? So that's the intermediary. Hawk, HAQ, was the guy who gave the money. If you remember, the bankroll, the hijackers, and so forth. There's this guy named Al-Attar in Washington, who's a Hezbollah operative. He knows Wolfowitz. That's the #1 guy at the Project for a New American Century. So there's definitely a connection here to the terrorists through Al-Attar and Imran Awan. Imran Awan and Al-Attar know each other in 1999, right? And now you remember the night I went to the Hijacker Hotel, or you might not remember the night I went to Hijacker Hotel, but Imran Awan was just a low-level delivery boy at that time. He was only in the United States 2 years. He had just won the lottery, as a Inter-America, right? Inter-America. If you're a Rockefeller and you have an Inter-America scholarship, you go right into Capitol Hill and you get a clearance too. And then he drops off those Blackberries at that Hijacker Hotel, right across in Columbia, Maryland, from the National Security Agency. Now, how does that happen? Why does it happen right across the street from the National Security Agency? Because the NSA knows what kind of hardened military encryption they cannot break. And this operation cannot be broken before 9/11. That's just pure, plain and simple. Cofer Black knows this. You're not going to get 9/11 and all the things for biosurveillance unless you do this. And so you have to have military encryption. Cofer Black knows that. He's not going to get his anti-terrorism center. He's not going to get his ON6 and his ODNI, right? There's Imran. He's not going to get any of that unless this thing goes through. So he has to pick an encryption technology that he knows the NSA cannot break. He knows that has to be given to the hijackers. Now, we know that PTEC went all up and down the first 2 buildings, Tower 1 and Tower 2, and went undetected, and was sucking all the data and client lists out of all these brokerage firms before the buildings got hit. We know that Jack Lew with PTEC is the one who got those Blackberries for PTEC. So that's why I say this thing goes back to 1999. It didn't just start with Biden there on Capitol Hill, but we know the authority, it's called the Joint Task Force Washington, D.C. area. It's a combination of CIA, DIA, FBI, Capitol Hill Police, but it's the people who take control if there's any threat to presidential succession. And a threat to one, that's JTTF the JTTF handles all of these false flags, if you notice. They were in the bombing of the Boston bombing as well, but they are in control. That area in the Capitol is in control. So it's Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff running the show anytime there's any threat to presidential succession. So when Kamala Harris says that she's under threat as the vice president-elect, now immediately at Secret Service, you take the phone away from Donald Trump. He's no longer, for that moment, president of the United States. The power has transitioned to the seat of government. The seat of government is that office for the Sergeant of Arms of the United States. Donald Trump no longer has executive power. They took his phone from him and didn't give it back to him until 2/24. He didn't tweet out until 2/24, I believe. I think there was one tweet that said, stand down and be nice to your Capitol Police officers and so forth. And they said the crowd surged at 2/24 when he said Mike Pence is to blame for all this. Why? Because Mike Pence's assistant grabbed Trump's phone and wouldn't give it back. Trump could have interceded and stopped it, but Mike Pence's assistant had the phone. So my point here is the period between the Kamala Harris attempted assassination at the DNC, at least in the eyes of the law, to the period of Ashley Babbitt being shot, with shots fired at the Capitol. Donald Trump was not president of the United States. It was this JTF Washington-based group out of this office that was the president. And they have a contingency plan to move the office if there ever is an insurgency against the United States. And I believe that the team I saw, and I'm right on their ass, Andy, I'm looking at all 14 and their heads bobbing. I don't care about Joe Biggs, and I know he's an FBI informant. I'm on their ass. I know that they're going to get the server, right? They have contingency that for retrieval to get these servers out of there. This is running the government right now. The whole free world is running on these servers. They have to go in and get that and get out. That's their whole job. So I hope that helps the audience, because this happened before. It all happened on 9/11 first. This was just a repeat of 9/11.
Was the Nancy Pelosi laptop stolen important, or is that kind of a distraction from the?
It's a little bit of a diversion. It's a diversion, yes, Andy. It's a good point, because Riley, the gal who steals the Nancy Pelosi laptop, she doesn't have BlackBerry server running on hers. The senators that came out and said their laptops were stolen, Senator Merkley, Ron, what's his name from Oregon, about 5 or 6 Senate laptops were stolen. Let's see, fact check Pelosi's conference room.
They say it wasn't taken by special forces. It was taken, but not by special forces.
No, it was taken by that Riley girl. She's an actress. She's she reenacts these jousting matches and stuff. So she was a paid actress, but an informant. I never said special forces took Nancy Pelosi's laptop, but I did.
You mentioned the Pence aide taking Trump's phone. There's the Pence aide during the impeachment inquiry where Trump was looking into Joe Biden and Ukraine. That was all kind of started from a Pence aide as well. So I wonder if these Pence aides are the ones that are kind of like in the deep state's pockets.
Well, those are always your operatives.
Yeah.
Those are always your operatives, because they're the handlers. For instance, Joe Biden didn't know about this place in the Pentagon, this Sergeant of Arms office. And he told Joe Biden, it might not be a good idea to test everybody for anthrax here at the Hart office building where the attack was, because we got anthrax all over. We should move over into the Senate Sergeant of Arms building. And that's an assistant saying that. I can't read this, Andy, but go ahead.
Oh, that was just the Pence aide said Trump's Ukraine phone call was unusual and inappropriate, and she testified against Trump when Trump was going after Biden and his corruption in Ukraine. So it's always like a Pence aide takes the phone. A Pence aide was testifying against Trump. It's always like a Pence aide that was at the center of some of these.
Vindman. Pence was also very involved, if you remember, in Anthrax 9/11. Pence was also involved in Anthrax 9/11. And he was the one who had the job of saying it was weaponized anthrax and Saddam Hussein's weaponized anthrax. He was the key guy on point for saying it's weaponized anthrax from Saddam Hussein in order to get the war fervor going for invading Iraq. Yeah.
And there you go. Got the article on the screen. Mike Pence once peddled conspiracy theories about anthrax and Saddam Hussein. So Mike Pence, thank God he didn't run this time, and you don't even like really hear his name anymore. But
you know what's amazing? You know what's amazing with the left-wing press? They use conspiracy theories so cavalierly, right? It's always conspiracy theory. Tom Brady's coming back to finish his senior year at Michigan, right? Right. Mm-hmm. That's a conspiracy theory, right? Okay, well maybe it is, right? It's a dream for a lot of people, but when it's Trump Russia and it's completely proven false, they never say CNN discredits Trump Russia conspiracy theory. You never hear them go back and go, oh, the conspiracy theory that it was a Russian disinformation campaign for Hunter Biden's laptop. CNN's proven that this reporter's being fired because he said it was a Russian disinformation conspiracy theory. They never go back and say the Hunter Biden thing is a conspiracy theory. They never go back and say, oh, the bat and not the lab leak was a conspiracy theory. They never go back and discredit and say, well, I'm sorry, the whole bat thing to pangolin to human actually didn't happen. It's conspiracy theory. They never do that. It's only when it's in their favor and in their interest that it becomes conspiracy theory. And I don't think Tom Brady is coming back and finishing his senior year as a 40-what-year-old at Michigan. I don't
I
think
heard
so.
Joe Biden signed an executive order approving it.
but Tom Brady, I'll throw this out to you. You got enough money. You were married to Giselle. What else do you have left? Finish your degree, dude, and win the national championship. Right?
Need a new quarterback this year. JJ's gone.
Drop back to pass, dude. Find your receivers. Be an Andy Dabala. Do something for your college, right? Don't be the guy just always taking the money and run. Okay, I think I covered that.
So we got another story in the news today is Mr. Donald Trump looking for a new law firm. I have a Truth Social post of his. I'll read real quick and then I'll let you talk about it. So he posted yesterday, I am in the process, along with my team, of interviewing various law firms to represent me in an appeal of one of the most ridiculous and unfair witch hunts our country has ever seen. The defamation sham presided over by a Clinton-appointed, highly partisan, Trump-hating judge, Lewis Kaplan, who is, together with certain other radical Democrat judges, one of the most partisan and out-of-control activists that have ever appeared before. He was a bully who demanded 2 trials rather than 1, denied me due process, would not allow me to put forth vital evidence, of which there was much, and only allowed me to be on the witness stand for minutes, telling my lawyer what to ask and telling me to only give one-word answers. As his wife and friends sat in cordoned off front row seats watching with glee. This entire hoax is a disgrace to our American system of justice. Any lawyer who takes a Trump case is either crazy or a true American patriot. I will make my decision soon. So Alina Habba is off the case and he's shopping around. George, he finally listened to you. What are your thoughts?
Finally, that took a while. He's going to wait till the hangman's noose is around his neck and go, that George Webb, he's really pretty smart guy. I mean, you got to kind of here. You can look.
You're calling it in May if you want me to play the video.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Here's George, May 1st, 2023. Trump raid Corona plants about to come to light. Watch Eric Trump 9-hour raid tape for Alina Habba, the FBI plant in Mar-a-Lago. So George Webb's calling it.
Okay, hello everyone. George Webb here in West Palm Beach, keeping an eye on the Trump compound. Lots of stuff going on with Trump. We really don't cover that much, but Eric Trump says he's got new evidence of the 9-hour tape from Mar-a-Lago that goes over the 40-odd agents that visited Mar-a-Lago over that period of time. And the key person that I think you're going to see is an FBI informant who is also Trump's lawyer. And we said it a long time ago. We said Alina Habba was the last person in the Trump office. That's in the actual indictment. She's the last person in the Trump office. Why would she be going there during the Trump raid? We'll see if she's in the tape or not. But again, a lot of these folks start out with dangling. They dangle things. Nate came with the uranium one, dangling that to the Trump folks in 2016 during the campaign. They dangle the juice and they hope that the person will engage in a conspiracy. And this is how the entrapment schemes work. Alina Habba, close associate with Matt Pottinger. Matt Pottinger was the guy who, during the Trump Christmas breaks, during the time that he was here in Mar-a-Lago over the breaks, was the key person feeding him information on a daily basis about coronavirus up until and leading up to the travel bans. So we're going to be watching that very carefully. You remember during that period of time, he also has the Soleimani raid. So we know the national security advisor on the first of the year, I believe. So we know the national security team was here during that critical period between 2019 and 2020 when coronavirus is breaking out. Remember, they have the huge potluck on the 17th in Wuhan. Then all the students, the 1,000 talent students, fly to various Chinatown parade celebrations. And then, of course, Matt Pottinger, after the Chinatown celebrations are over, after Nancy Pelosi says, come on down to the Chinatown celebrations, then and only then does he go to Peter Navarro and the Unabomber, not the Unabomber, excuse me, the anthrax bomber, the suspected anthrax bomber, Stephen Hatfield. That's when he goes over to the domain team and they give him the information about locking down the country. So we'll see if that information comes out. Is it going to be Alina Habba, the one who puts the information in the drawer of the desk with the no foreign? Remember, those were splayed out all over the floor. We'll see if it's her actual insert into the Trump office. Remember, she, by her own admission, says that she was the person who was the last person in the Trump office. She, by her own admission, says she was the last person in the Trump office. He's the leading candidate. So we have to cover it. But what's the background? What are they trying to hide? What's the cover-up here? The cover-up is really a much longer program going all the way back to Stephen Hatfield and anthrax 9/11 attacks. It's the taking of this Soviet Union bioweapons technology and vaccine technology and bringing it in, inhaling it in through Michael Callahan, DARPA's man in Wuhan. Remember, I wrote an article, Dr. DARPA's Death, on my Substack, George Webb's Substack, bringing that technology in, laundering it through Bob Malone's business partner, CIA business partner, guy by the name of Daryl Galloway, in a company called, or Transition, it's a DOD DTRA agency, Transition Medical Technologies Initiative. That's the laundering of the DARPA technology. The platform becomes several different products, but it becomes DARPA Adept. That's the product that we said they were fixing the bids for with the Wellcome Trust in May 2019, and then with the WHO with Virginia Benassi. We didn't know at that time that would become mRNA. So this, in an odd way, going all the way back to Alina Habba and Matt Pottinger being here during that critical period of time, that January 2020, may unlock a whole bunch of things and provide a lot of proof to Substacks that I already have out there.
All right, George Webb, and here's some nice little David Kramer provided some nice little pictures with Matt Pottinger and the Alina Habba connection. But she also had some thieves break into her car, kind of looking like this little pipe bomber person a little bit. Is this all?
Remember, go ahead and play this. Yeah, go ahead. Now remember, all I have to do is the slip covers, the classified slip covers are all I need here to convict Trump in the court of public opinion. I don't actually have to have any secret files. And I'm not sharing classified information if I just have the slip covers. And remember, it's the slip covers, and I'm the one who pointed it out in the photograph. There's files, there's folders, but there's no files in there. She's not releasing classified information here if there's nothing in the files, but I splay them out, right? And now it looks like Donald Trump is secreting classified information. Here we go.
All right, here's the Alina Habba getting her car hijacked. I'll stop at a little white Range Rover.
This is at Bedminster Country Club, Donald Trump's other office where he has classified information.
I don't think there's really any audio to the video, but yeah, this is, you think she was like maybe she was, as a little informant, maybe she was on the phone. I'm going to park my car right here and I'm going inside at 2:00 and I'll accidentally leave my briefcase in my car. So make sure you're out there and you grab it by then. And then some classified information's gone out of a car. You can see this witness, like this ain't like random where they're just looking through cars in a parking lot. There was a targeted attack, it looks like.
And you got to get through. First of all, this drove all the way from Long Island, this Range Rover, brand new. So it'd be hot, and they would go over these various large bridges like the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. It has to drive all the way to Bedminster. Now, this is a private club, right? And so you've got guards checking. I've been to the clubs, right? I mean, you got guards checking the license plate. You got guards checking the people that are coming in. And now here comes this thing, and they go and they, on camera here, break into Alina Habba's car, and then they drive out. And then 2 months later, I find those documents in Trump's desk. And then Alina Habba says she let the FBI in and she's the last person who had her hand in the desk on national television. This is not what I need in a lawyer. I don't need my lawyer splaying all kinds of classified documents out of my desk in Bedminster, first of all, and putting them in her car. And then there's the miraculous theft. And then I don't need them being put into my office right before an FBI raid, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just.
Could you put that back up, Andy? I didn't quite see that. I didn't see what the meme was.
Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry. Oh, that was just like a weird ad that was on after the video for the Daily Mail website. But yeah, this just seems once this happened, Trump should have kind of known something was up. It's like, this lady, there's too many fishy things going around, this Habba lady. Maybe I should distance myself from her a little bit. But I guess he didn't kind of have that I guess insight, or if he wasn't really paying attention. And it seems like she kind of got bossed around the courtroom in this Jean Carroll case. She wasn't making demands. She wasn't letting Trump talk. She was like letting the judge ask questions for her, like pre-approved questions. It just seemed like something was up this whole time, and it just seems like a giant witch hunt. But I don't know if you want to continue on with this. We got
Andy. The civil rules of the federal rules of civil procedure lay out exactly what an attorney is allowed to say, and there is no limiting witnesses to one-word answers. You can do short answers. The judge can say, "Please make your answers more concise," if the witness is going on too long and not, getting to the meat of the nut, if you will. But there's no one-word answers, or you're not allowed to respond. That doesn't exist. So especially in the first trial, not the second trial, she lost it all in the first trial. So this is really the penalty round here. But in the first trial, horrible. And I did a video earlier today which said she didn't ask the one question that's the most obvious. Alina Habba, beautiful woman, right? Jean Carroll, I as a woman identify with you. I also value my safety. If anyone ever attacked me in a Bergdorf department store, high-end department store, I would yell, rape. Why didn't you? Why didn't you? You knew that the Bergdorf has fantastic security. They have cameras everywhere. It's a
scream at all.
It's a very high profile. He's obviously in an area he shouldn't be in, a man in a women's dressing room. So it's just, you wouldn't even have to, you have instant proof on the cameras. It's Donald Trump. He's not getting away. This isn't somebody who you're afraid of reprisal, because it's Donald Trump, right? So for all these reasons, maybe it was because you're too busy writing books about how to lure men in places like Bergdorf's to try to get rich men to go after you so that you can inherit a lot of money. I mean, you write a lot about that. It seems like you're an entraptress, right? The hard questions, just like in a jury would see it. You don't have to exaggerate anything. It just seems like you're an expert in entrapment. Because any normal person would have yelled rape. I don't see a normal person not yelling rape. I cannot imagine a world where a normal person wouldn't yell rape. Right? And what is this hideous man?
Yeah, this is just when Donald Trump assaulted me in a Bergdorf Goodman dressing room 23 years ago, but he's not alone on my list of awful men in my life. It seems she's got a bad choice in men. It seems like, she was at Bergdorf Goodman screaming rape a lot almost.
Well, the other thing is she wrote a book about slut girls and frigid women and how to seduce men and how to get a rich guy. She wrote a book 2 years before this. So again, Alina Habba has to say, I have to believe your book is an accurate reflection of your thoughts. And your book says that you're all about seducing rich men and trying to do fantasies in public places. Can you say anything to convince me that's not true? Because that's what your book says.
Mhm.
right? And put them between the book and them. Having them argue with their book is good in front of a jury. Don't make it arguing with Trump. Make it arguing with her book. This is your book, not mine. Your book says you're a seductress. Your book says you're a temptress. Your book says you make stock and trade in entrapment. Your book, right? So convince me that you didn't mean what you said in this book. And now you have the person arguing against themselves. And the jury's watching this. Who's going to win? Is the book going to win, or is she going to win? Is she going to convince us she didn't write the book? You know, and the jury's like, wait a minute, she wrote that. And then the judge disallowed this in the second penalty phase. Of course, it has to be entered into evidence in the first round. She lost it. The two incredible, what was the book's name?
Do we
Slut
need
Girls?
men for a modest proposal?
I think it had Slut Girls, E. Jean Carroll, and it had Slut Girls in the title. But
Mr. Right, Mr. Now, man catching made easy.
well, that'd be another one. I'd say, I'd read a chapter and said, in Man Catching Made Easy, you said this. Do you want the jury to believe that's you who wrote that? Or do you disagree with that now? Do you still agree with that? Yes or no? Do you still agree with that, what you wrote about man catching? No. Well, how do you disagree with yourself? Explain to the jury how you disagree with yourself, because this was your state of mind right before this Bergdorf incident happened. So just the lawyer, like I say, I wouldn't have been just trying to defend Donald Trump. I would be trying to get money from her for defamation, for false accusation. She's the one who defamed Donald Trump. I would be going for $83 million from her, right? And how Habba could lose that and flip this around is the same way she admits to being the last person who put stuff into Donald Trump's desk before the FBI raid. No wonder Donald Trump didn't find anything in his desk. He went through it and cleaned through it until the raid happened, and then Alina Habba met him at the gate, and then all of a sudden the documents show up. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out how they got there. They went from the Bedminster desk through her car into Donald Trump's desk in Mar-a-Lago. Pure, plain, and simple. It's not rocket surgery,
Mm-hmm.
But this one's another one where you have all these books. Normally in these cases, I've interviewed lawyers that did rape cases. Hillary Clinton won a rape case where the woman was raped, a 14-year-old, right? You have the books which establish the state of mind, right? And then those are allowable and interesting. You raise the book up, you build a foundation. Did you write this book? No or yes? Yes or no? Did you write it? Yes. Did you write it around this time? Yes. Are these your words? And then you read those words. Yes. Do you recall writing those words? Yes. Well, here's the first one that says you want a dress in a slinky dress and then whisper in a man's ear in Bergdorf's, would you like to have sex with me in the dressing room? Are those your words? Yes. Well, how do you expect the jury to believe that it was Donald Trump's idea if it's your words in the book? How do you expect the jury to believe that? And then you could always do that closer. How do you expect the jury to believe this? How do you expect the jury to believe that? And then let them squirm, right? Let them squirm. And then each book is a pillar. Each book is like a whole day of cross-examination. Mr. Right now. Yeah, there you go. And how Trump didn't win $83 million is my key question that I have in my head.
Yeah, she literally tells people to head over to the golf range or racetrack for maximum male populations. So she's like,
Wellington.
It's kind of like that one Will Smith movie, Hitch, where she's like telling guys how to like pick up chicks in this like kind of sleazeball way. She's doing it for women almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And this isn't even, we're not even getting started. And the other thing is the advocate has to try the case also in the court of public opinion. All this should have come out before. We should have known all this stuff, not at the second trial, which was the closed down keyhole trial. We should have known this in the open session with evidence in the first time. And remember, I was talking about Habba way before the first trial, way before, right? This one I did in May of 2023 was I was down there covering almost every day of that trial, of the procedures, and saying immediately, hey, this is Jeff Epstein courtroom, Jeff Epstein judge, Jeff Epstein police department. What part of this isn't going to be a Jeff Epstein verdict? You know, just show me something that isn't Jeff Epstein around here. You know what I mean? This is going to go against him. And she didn't show up in court the first day when I was there. When all the interveners were coming in, she didn't show. What kind of lawyer doesn't show and rebut the information that the interveners are bringing in? The interveners were damaging to Donald Trump. When I tried to intervene in Tanya Chutkin's courtroom, where Trump's going to be in less than in a month, where he could go to jail, right? She wouldn't let me intervene as a member of the press. But yet in the Jeff Epstein courtroom, the Jeff Epstein judge let 5 different news organizations come in, and most of them were against Trump. You have to respond to that as an attorney. She wasn't there. I came out and railed against her from that day forward, right? It's like, how could you not be there when your client is being pilloried and they're bringing in these prop witnesses, and it's basically open season on Donald Trump with no response? How could you not be there? I'm there. I'm there every day. I'm not getting paid. Somebody buys me a coffee every once in a while, but I'm not getting paid. You're getting paid. And over and over again, her trial manner was horrible. No objections. She's sullen. She sits like a lump on a log. She doesn't know her law. Just a horrible lawyer in every situation. She's pretty. I'll give her that. She's pretty, but that's it. And there's more to law than being a pretty face. And I'm not even a lawyer, but it was just, I think what they said was, we need to advocate. The Caswitz law said we need to advocate with a woman talking about a rape case, because you don't want a man bearing down on a woman in a rape case typically. But yeah, great pantsuits.
Yeah, don't forget about her trying to spread disease X around the trial as well. They had to delay the whole thing.
They delayed that. They delayed that till after the New Hampshire primary, so they could say Trump's attacking women.
Yeah.
So they could bring this up. So, you know, they wanted that verdict to come down after New Hampshire to try to build this false narrative that Trump's a misogynist. It's so contrived. It's so easily debunked. It's such an easily transparent, machinations here. But I'm glad he made the decision. I would like to see, a Cliff Arnebeck or a Bob Pitrakis or somebody from Columbus. I don't want to see anybody else from Washington.
I want to see Rudy Giuliani with black hair dye dripping down his face again.
I don't want to see Giuliani. I don't want to see any fake lawyers. I don't want to see any Kolomoisky cigar smokers. I want to see somebody from Columbus. I want to see Cliff Arnebeck or Bob Pitrakis, somebody who's done some investigative journalism, somebody who's got a little bit of juice on the ball, even though Bob Pitrakis was going to be Seth Rich's lawyer. But I want to see somebody from Columbus, or Dearborn. Yeah, Michigan. No, Detroit. I don't want to see, Ann Arbor again. The case that we had with the election voting machines was right out of the Paul Whelan spy school right there in Ann Arbor. It's like, why does it always have to be in the spy school, DNC spy school? Why always are the cases? Everybody is sourced from the DNC spy school. So anyway, we'll move on to something else now.
All right, the final, I guess we may have a couple more, but here's another story. We play a video at the end of the show for all of you that stay through to the end, digging into Andre Taggart and why Blackberries matter, and they are actually still. Blackberry didn't quite go away. They're still on the scene, and they're actually being used in Ukraine right now for their defense departments, their police force. Apparently, they have the best cybersecurity out of all the phones. So Ukraine is electing to use Blackberry as their communication phone of choice. And you talked about Hunter Biden and this whole network of Blackberries and encrypted communication. What are your thoughts on Ukraine still using Blackberries? And is this just an extension of like the Biden and the Biden campaign being in Ukraine and running things. What's exactly going on here?
Yes, yes. You know, Bill Taylor. That's why I said Bill Taylor. He was with the defense contractor that sold him the Blackberries. That's why I thought it was Bill Taylor originally that met with me, because he knew so much about the Blackberries, right? But the thing is, once you put a whole bunch of these encrypted devices in people's hands, and then you change them out, now I got to go do a software upgrade. Now I got to go get you an iPhone and put, some other kind of, Genie or some other kind of encrypted stack on there with the BlackBerry stack. And it creates footprints. It's better that you just keep the BlackBerry for operations. Just keep it in your desk, sort of like a Swiss Army outfit in your closet until we do the next covert op. But then you bring it like a walkie-talkie the next time we do this. And they're still using them today. How do you get all these Ukrainians into Washington, right, to get there and form on that grassy knoll and go right through behind the Proud Boys? How do you get Dobrynin, who's pictured there on Capitol Hill, how do you get him in and out of the country, right, if they don't have encrypted communications? How do they do it? Do you just do regular phone lines with the NSA listening? If you're the JTF task force, you know that NSA cannot see these. It's military grade encryption, and they can do inline software updates. So you know that these are invisible. You know you can get Dobrynin there. You've got to dance with the horse that brought you, right? You can't all of a sudden switch and go, you know what, we're going to go to hand signals, or we're going to go to smoke signals, or we're going to go to laser, animal shadow puppets on the wall of a hotel. You can't. You have to stick with what you've been trained. That's why they had to stay with BlackBerry. This is why I say, plus there was September 18th, there's a Ukrainian presence there with militia and not militia, but mercenaries, Azov militia there as well. I sensed the September 18th a year later. So you have to explain to me how the NSA could miss a war criminal like Dobrynin getting into the country, posing with Jake, what's his name, with the Buffalo boy, posing with Paul Pelosi. What's your first clue, FBI, that these guys were operatives on Capitol Hill that day? That's foreign interference. We've said this since 2017. The Kolomoisky's the guy who does election interference in the United States. We said it when we said Eric Braverman was meeting with them. It turns out Eric Braverman was meeting with them, and he was the guy at Clinton Foundation organizing these things. So, and it turned out to happen again. And they were in Hong Kong in 2019. Why are they in Hong Kong during the protesting of the government to Hong Kong to remain, to keep its rights? Why are they there? Why is the Azov Brigade there? To spray the population, right? If they're spraying the population. There's Dobrynin. How does he get there if he doesn't have a BlackBerry to get him in the country? And he's being brought in. We said exactly how they were going to bring him in. They're going to be brought in as Ukrainian journalists through the Library of Congress, through the George Soros Foundation. We said exactly how these guys got into the United States, and the FBI is hiding it.
It's just more to the story, and just to let everyone know, the In-Q-Tel is still running the BlackBerry operation. So Cylance is the company that handles the cybersecurity for BlackBerry, and in 2016, Cylance announced their strategic partnership with In-Q-Tel. So here you have In-Q-Tel and the U.S. Pretty much covert CIA running the communications for the Ukrainian war, it seems like.
I don't think. See, Dmitry was at Network Solutions or Network Associates 2000-ish, and we didn't buy PGP until 1999, and so he didn't go to RIM and do that work until early 2000. So if the hijackers did have it, it has to be on the timeline with Dmitry. Dmitry would have had to have provided then the P-Tech Blackberries to the P-Tech guys in 2001. And that's when I left I think I may have left. Yeah, I left in 1999. I left from Network Associates. Hey, we got spies here. They're writing backdoors, Andy, into everybody's computer. Everybody's with the antivirus software. What part of that doesn't seem like a CIA backdoor operation, an NSA operation? Am I the only guy who notices this? I didn't know that, by the way. When Bill Larson originally bought the Dimitri's company, the 12 guys out of Moscow, I didn't know that they were writing backdoors. I didn't know that they were putting out malware. I found it out later. As soon as I found it out, I made a big stink, and I left. I quit. I would have been fired anyway, so I quit. So I'd have my. But they didn't. I was the squeaky wheel on this deal, and I left, I believe, the first quarter, right as 2000. There was a big hype for Y2K, if I remember correctly, and people were worried about security, and I left somewhere in there, somewhere right in there.
So we another story you were digging into was this Lindsey Graham, and talking about an attack on Syria was an attack on Iran will attack Charleston. Can you comment on that, George Webb?
Well, they're trying to signal now that all this stuff's coming in with Deep Blackberry, right? Now they're trying to signal reduce me, and they're bringing up the story 7 years ago about the port of Charleston. And I'm saying, okay, let's talk about the port of Charleston. I'll set the stage for you. I'm going to Ohio, to Piketon. We've done a couple of charrettes there, and I'm trying to find missing uranium, okay? Right? That's what I'm on my way to do. Now, here's Lindsey Graham saying, there's going to be an attack by the Iranians. They're going to do a dirty bomb. They're going to bring a nuclear bomb into Charleston in 2013. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I identify aspiring in Congress, Imran Awan, who has direct contacts to Hezbollah and Al-Attar. Al-Attar is convicted of $600,000 or $700,000 in Medicaid fraud. He also knows Wolfowitz. So Wolfowitz is Mr. False Flag. And I'm like, okay, looks like there may be a false flag someday, but I didn't say Charleston, right? So I just let everybody know that an FBI informant, I'm going and trying to find missing uranium, and a warmed over story by Jerome Corsi, which he wrote about Iran bombing a U.S. port and sending a missile into, I think it was Norfolk or whatever, that he wrote. They took a rewarmed thing. Jerome Corsi came out of his way to introduce himself to me and Jason. He offered us $9,000 a month for a 3-month contract with InfoWars as the DC bureau chief, which is a big lie. He went and offered that to us at the Harvard Club in New York City, right? But basically, I was working with a guy doing talking with him occasionally, this guy I call Deep Uranium, because he's saying, hey, this uranium's going missing. We had this program called Megatons to Megawatts, and the uranium was supposed to be from these missiles, these 20,000 missiles, and it was supposed to go to Piketon, Ohio, and it's not going to Ohio. That's why I'm in Ohio. Mm-hmm. South Carolina is not in Ohio. I'm going to their nuclear reservation because Deep Uranium is the person I was going to meet in Parkersburg, where the bridge is, the first bridge over the Ohio River, go all the way back to Brown Brothers and Cromwell and Sullivan and Cromwell building that bridge over the Ohio, as Dave Underdown will tell us. I'm there for megatons to megawatts. Nobody who does the context of the story says that, even though I say that in a taped interview with Donnie O'Sullivan in 2017. Okay. So that's the first thing, is I'm looking for missing uranium in Ohio. And we've got Jerome Corsi writing a book about a ship leaving Pakistan. The Pakistani freightliner container ship is called the Osani or Osami, like Osmani. I think I sent you a couple of clips from the book. Osmani, like Tim Osman, like Osama bin Laden. Osmani ship. So they're making it sound like 9/11. And they're going to put missiles on it. And Iran's going to get nuclear fissionable material with this missing uranium. They're going to fire it into the United States, into Washington, D.C. I don't think it was America for Sale. It was the book is called Showdown with Nuclear Iran. Yeah.
Here we go. I got it on the screen.
Yeah. Now just read what it is. It's the Port of Charleston. He contacts me. He invites us out to his house in New Jersey. Okay. And here's the book he wrote about it. And if you go to the next page,
aboard Osmani's freighter Grand Ayatollah. All preparations for phase 2 of the attack had been completed. The Revolutionary Guard team stood silently by, eyes glued to the chronometer as the seconds ticked away. The encoded instructions had been received. Launch at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. Like their counterparts aboard the Shadow 3, this team too had practiced it daily since departing from Karachi. Now they were 250 miles off the coast of Norfolk, Virginia, aboard the Grand Ayatollah and ready to fire. During the night hours, the deck of the container ship had been cleared, exposing the doors of secret compartment. The men knew that by sunrise there would no longer be a need to hide their deadly cargo. At 5 a.m. Eastern, the giant doors were opened and a huge Soviet-built MAZ 534 transport erector launcher crept into view. Identical to the launcher aboard the Shadow 3, this vehicle too carried a Shahab 3 missile. With a measured step, the ship's captain approached the team commander and handed him the final GPS coordinates to be programmed into the guidance system. The White House, Washington, D.C., the commander couldn't help but smile as he looked at the piece of paper. Thanks to be Allah for the internet, he thought. Even the most extraordinary information is available with only a few keystrokes. The countdown to launch had begun. The entire crew, that can be said for biolabs and bioweapons as well. The entire crew aboard the Grand Ayatollah gathered on the deck, unrolling their prayer mats. Each man faced Mecca and began to pray. At precisely 6:29 a.m. Eastern, the fateful coordinates were programmed into the Shahab 3 missile, and the commander stood at ready to push the launch button. He counted down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, all the way to launch as the missile roared into the atmosphere and toward its target in central Washington, D.C. The men cried as one, Allah Akbar, death to America. You want me to keep going on to the next one?
No, I just want to show you that Jason is in conversation and calls Corsi during this show, right? Calls him during the show that we were doing. And, you know, what I had said was I had talked to this guy and he had said that he had represented 6 different guys with 100 years of experience in DHS or pre-DHS type experience. And he had said, our group, we've all met, you know, we hit all of our phones and so forth, and we all met and said that there is a clear and present danger that's coming. We don't know where it is, but we think it's on a Maersk ship. I had no idea where the ship is. After he tells me, and then the audience says it's off the Port of Charleston, I say, you know, I have a prediction to make. It's actually going to be Norfolk. And I'm going through my mental calculations saying Ibrahim uses Norfolk as a drug port. If Ibrahim bombs ports where there's customs that look into his containers, if any bombing is going to be, it's going to be in an Ibrahim port, right? And I say, I have a prediction to make. It's going to be Norfolk. Now, how the hell does that mean Charleston? Those are 2 different ports. And the other thing that I say with regard to this is the Ibrahim gang is arrested in the United States in 2018 for terrorism. You hear Donnie O'Sullivan covering that? Oh, by the way, it turns out, you know, that thing I said that George Webb did, you know, in the Port of Charleston, well, that wasn't true. As he actually predicted it was Norfolk. And the other thing is he actually ended up helping the FBI catch Ibrahim because they were arrested. And Ibrahim is also the one who did the Port of Mumbai bombing in 2008, and he did several other terrorist incidents in India, and he also did the Sri Lanka bombings. So we just solved 3 international terrorism incidents. And I've been talking about Daewoo, who was the Pakistani counterpart who was financing all this stuff with Ibrahim. Ibrahim Daewoo was the guy's name. So that's kind of like exactly right, you know. And then it's twisted into this Port of Charleston thing, which is, let's say it was just Port of Charleston. Let's say I didn't say I predicted it's Norfolk. Let's say I said, we clear, and Jason asked me what I should title the show. I said clear and present danger, because it is a clear and present danger. You see something, say something, right? If you have 6 different DHS people, right? Later on, everybody said I made up deep uranium. It came out Marshall Oakey Richards. Jason did about 10 shows with Marshall Oakey Richards after this. He called him Rock Hudson. And he had admitted he'd gotten people arrested in West Virginia in a bombing plot of the FBI headquarters. He was the person who was trying to teach him how to build bombs. He admitted being an entrapment artist, right? And Jason went ahead and did 10 shows with him. Who's partnering with who? I'm not working with Deep Uranium after that, after he gets me arrested when I'm going to Piketon, right? Jason's the one doing shows with Deep Uranium. So, and Jason's the one calling Corsi during the middle of this whole thing, right? And then he, there's a lot of loose ends here, and I always was the victim, and he's always the beneficiary. You'd think people would figure that out sooner or later. So anyway, I saved this to the end of the show because I know a lot of people don't want to know all about this, but I see them bringing this back up to try to do signal reduction on me now. Now the whole deep Blackberry thing is coming in as we're watching the news.
Yeah, I found their little video they're making on you. It's it's just try to slander you at all costs, George Webb. But
12 different shows. 12 different shows. And you know what's funny about
I'm on
this?
episode 10 right now.
You know what's funny about this is the Keystone Cops, they don't get anything right. They don't even get close. It's like somebody going to being there when Lincoln is shot at the Ford Theater, and then they come out and they go, I heard a horse whinny, and I think there's upset horses here in Washington. I think something happened in the theater that upset the horses. I mean, they're so far away from the reason why I got all these witnesses, right, from JSOC, and why we were looking into, selling the bioweapons from the old Soviet Union. They don't get anything right. So, and Jason also did 12 shows with this David Hawkins that accused me and my brother of doing 9/11. And he accused me of doing the Blackberries as well with a company called Phantom Secure in Western Canada, because I covered Western Canada for Network Associates. I mean, they never quit. But you know what? It shows. It shows you people.
I just don't understand, like the like if you're trying to like save people. Like, I understand some business was lost or whatever, but overall the goal was to save people's lives. It's like you're just operating on a tip. You give the FBI or whoever the tip, they investigate it more. You give them all the information you have, and it's like I did my job at this point. I found some information, and
you and I covered that. We went down to the port of Long Beach, and we covered how the port of Long Beach was closed for 76 days because of coronavirus. You and I covered that. We went down and did the shred there in Long Beach, 76 days. This was only closed for 4 hours. We're not talking about closing down an airport. These ships move at less than 20 miles an hour. Okay, they have ships sitting all the time waiting to come into port. Wouldn't it be better? And plus, we had identified on the manifest, we had identified 4 diplomatic containers under Saudi, or it wasn't Saudi, under UAE names, right? And we got Lindsey Graham saying this is the biggest threat. They're going to do this. Hezbollah is going to do this. We got a Hezbollah connected guy in the port of Karachi. Imran had worked at the port of Karachi, right? At one point. We got the guy who's got 100 years experience. I don't know. 100 years experience. He says that something's going to happen. So watch out. Wouldn't we think, hey, let's just keep the ship out there a couple of miles? Joe Biden also on September 10th said that they would bring a bomb in the port of a ship. Wouldn't we want to just keep it out there and go through it? And I said, and I have 5 different phone calls with DHS with bigger and bigger groups. And I say, don't go through the whole ship. Just go to the 4 diplomatic containers and test those for radiation. They can like swab it and test for radiation. Just test those for radiation. That's it. Just go swab it, and before you bring it into the port, because that's a huge Navy port. That's where we load the nuclear missiles on our nuclear submarines. Isn't it worth a little bit of precaution? A little tiny, tiny, tiny bit of precaution. Now, a dirty bomb wouldn't necessarily cause, a triggered explosion, but it would upset operations of our nuclear subforce, right? That's where all of our nuclear submarines are loaded, with the Navy port there, with missiles. Let's just have them out there, just one ship, for a couple of hours, and go through it out there. Go through it out there about 20 miles out. And if something does happen, then it makes a toxic cloud and some seagulls die. Okay. But we're not talking about shutting down the whole port. And I made this point 5 times. You can see it in the FBI files. I make it 5 times in 5 phone calls. I say, don't do anything extraordinary. Do your normal checking. But look at these 4 diplomatic containers with these UAE names. Looks funny, right? We got the senators saying they're going to do it. We've identified that. I went through the whole thing. Ibrahim, Dawood Ibrahim, international drug runner, connections to Hezbollah, just like Jerome Corsi does in his book. Wouldn't you want that? If you were at DHS, wouldn't you want that? Wouldn't you want somebody who had really super detailed information that could tell you right where to go, right where to swab, and see if there's radiation there or not? And the thing is, in the Port of Charleston's police report, they never released that information. Why wouldn't you release that information? Why would you withhold why would you tell everything else about the incident, but then withhold the information about those 4 containers?
They did say the radiation sweep, it wasn't released, was never released with their
We begin with breaking
reports
news
on the
tonight. An
radiation
evacuation
sweeps
at
in
the-
this little report I'm reading right here. So you want me to play the video?
Yeah. Go ahead, but I'm just saying, wouldn't you want, let's say you were living in Charleston.
So far, we know close to
Go ahead.
Let's say you were living in Charleston. Let's say you were just living in Charleston. Wouldn't you want that ship to kind of be out there 20 miles out past international water and have it checked out there rather than bringing it into the port right where we load all of our submarines with nuclear missiles? Just common sense. Here we go. And it was in the middle of the night too. That's the other thing.
breaking news tonight.
Yeah, here's just the news report.
That is off a Long Point Road. Part of the Cooper River also shut down due to a threat. So far, we know close to 200 people at the port have been moved for safety precautions. Our Caroline Balchunas is working for you, gathering details with more at this hour. Caroline?
Dean, workers say that they were evacuated around 8:30 this evening. Apparently, the ship was docking. It was an incoming ship from New York, and it was docking here at the terminal. Apparently, someone saw smoke coming from the deck of the ship, and that is when workers on the ship and off the ship, just around the port, say police told them to evacuate. They say they were told there was a dirty bomb on board. It's hard to see from where we are right now, but it is still an active scene on our way to this location. We went over the bridge and we did see out on the water several blue lights, vessels. And of course, the Coast Guard has a blocked off portion of the Cooper River. But there are roughly 200 people in a parking lot nearby. We did see a lot of them camping out. It seems they've been there for quite some time right now. It is unclear how long this evacuation will go on and how long this investigation will continue. But the Coast Guard does confirm that they are doing this out of an abundance of caution. It's not too much of a threat to public safety, more so for the vessel, but something they are taking very seriously. But again, unclear how long this evacuation will go on. Dean?
All right, Caroline, thank you. What we do know also at this hour, we have reached out to port officials. We have not heard back from them. We have also reached out to Charleston County Sheriff's Office to find out exactly what is happening at the port. We're still waiting to hear.
And in the actual story, it kind of actually mentioned
but Andy,
everything.
They mentioned what? I'm sorry.
They mentioned you and everything in the actual story and the dirty
right,
right, and the radiation sweeps and them not releasing the radiation sweep evidence.
Again, right? Joe Biden says this on September 10th before 9/11, right? Lindsey Graham repeats it and says it's going to happen. If we don't join the war in Syria, this port will be bombed. He says it in 2013. The senator says it. Okay, I'm not pushing this. I predicted it would be in Norfolk, but even if I did, even if I was saying it was going to be in Charleston, wouldn't you want to do the radiation sweep of the 4 containers? And wouldn't you want to release it and say the radiation came up no? Wouldn't you? The radiation came up negative. The ship is smoking. Okay, you heard her say the ship is smoking. That's not normal. Why is the ship smoking?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why the ship is smoking. Did somebody put a smoke bomb on it? I don't know, but that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
When a large container ship, container ships don't smoke. Container ships don't smoke. You know, there's no, that's not how they work. You know, that went out like Titanic, you know, they don't have steaming funnels, you know, so they're not supposed to be smoking. You're going to put a steaming Hulk into where we load up nuclear missiles for our nuclear submarines? I just don't think that's a good idea. That's why I said, put a title out, and Jason asked me live, I say clear and present danger. It is a clear and present danger. He says, well, that's not exciting enough. It doesn't say anything about dirty bomb in Charleston. So he's the one who said, well, if 1,800 people would tweet out right now, dirty bomb Charleston, would get their attention. Okay, you know, I mean, that's on you. I'm leaving the show. I left the show. And then he was the one who said, if 1,871 people would just tweet out right now, dirty bomb Charleston, hashtag dirty bomb, hashtag Charleston. I'm like, okay, that's on you, brother. So, you know, I said it was Charleston. Ibrahim was arrested. I never got credit from CNN on that or an apology that Ibrahim was arrested. But more importantly, see something, say something. This is not an airport. There's not hundreds of planes coming and going. There's like at 8:30 at night, there's like 2 or 3 ships. If you ever hang out at these ports, it's like one ship every 4 hours. And the port workers go from one ship to the other. They get these cranes and then they load the cranes and they move the containers over, right? So what we want the port workers to be grabbing diplomatic containers. And remember, the guy who wrote the story for Joe Biden, right, about a nuclear suitcase bomb, talks about putting it into a container ship, putting a nuclear bomb in a container ship. So we want the guy, the port workers to be handling this and starting to move these nuclear devices around off the ship near our nuclear submarines. Just not a good idea. And again, radiation sweep only of 4 containers, and they don't release the radiation sweep information. I couldn't believe it. So we don't know that this wasn't a 9/11. We don't know if Graham wasn't right, and this was the plan. This only happened 4 years after he made this prediction, by the way. It wasn't that long. It was a lot further after, when Joe Biden said the next big terrorist attack is going to come in the hull of a ship or in the belly of a plane. That's the quote. So anyway, I just wanted to cover this because these guys are somehow trying to make it out with like it's my idea. Jason's the one who did another 10 stories with deep uranium. He's the one who did another 10 stories with the FBI informant, not me. So, and Marshall Oki Richards was outed by me, and my brother actually is the one who outed him. So why would we do that if he was our accomplice? You know, and I hadn't talked to my brother in forever before this. So I mean, this is the whole thing with David Hawkins with the 12 shows saying I was the bad guy, and now with John Cullen, 12 shows saying I'm the bad guy. It just seems like there's more to this than just them trying to get clicks and trying to rebadge and repurpose my content from 7 years ago. There seems to be a discrediting operation going on here. Mm-hmm. Because I'm doing the work, and we're doing the work, and our researchers are doing the investigation, and we're finding the 4 containers that are on there with diplomatic immunity with the UAE names on the manifest. It takes time to go through all these ships and so forth, and that's what we did, and we're getting penalized because we did the great research.
Yep, it just seems to more of them. You got mainstream media discrediting you. It's Scott Pelley, 60 Minutes, and Humpty Dumpty over there and Donnie O'Sullivan. Then you got your old partner trying to discredit you. You got a bunch of trolls in our chat at all times trying to discredit what you're doing. But keep on keeping on, George Webb. And
I'll go back to Scott Pelley. Here's Jerome Corsi again with InfoWars. They keep trying to hang the InfoWars stories on me. Sandy Hook never happening and being all crisis actors is InfoWars, not me. They keep trying to hang InfoWars stories on me. I was the one who went up there and actually did the reporting. And this happens over and over again. These contrived stories that they come up with at InfoWars, then they try to foist them onto people doing real journalism. And it's a repeating pattern. And I see it happening again now with Alex Jones. They brought him back from, and had Elon Musk do a 3-hour call, a 2.5-hour call with him. And all they kept saying is, well, let's not talk about Sandy Hook anymore. Why didn't Elon Musk have somebody on there who did do the work at Sandy Hook? Right. And I say there's at least 2 guys that helped him. The Black Bloc, the guys running into the little river there and throwing the guns in the river and running the little covered bridge. At least there was people there that I had witnesses to saying that. Couldn't find anybody, Andy, that was a police or fire or ambulance that took wounded to the hospital. They all went to Yale Medical for autopsy. Is it a program? I don't know. It's very suspicious. They all had this neural deformities, like an anthrax-ish type deformity. So anyway, I know I'm going on a bit about this, but I'm defensive because I have a right to defend myself.
That is someone did one more thing. Someone in the chat mentioned Y2K and that kind of being a psyop as well. We know that was before the 9/11 and the Patriot Act, and we've had a bunch of biodefense acts since then. What was Y2K exactly? Was that one of these was CIA trying to get their like cybersecurity tracking devices into everyone's system?
Collect it all. So I was very much a part of this, okay, Y2K, and Oracle was a big one of those, collect it all, where they were trying to get all the databases, the separate databases from the older software. Those are the ones that supposedly had the Y2K vulnerability. They were trying to get it all onto Oracle or all onto Sybase or all onto Microsoft SQL Server. So these consultants were doing incredible business. That's when I, was at probably making the most money that I've ever made in Silicon Valley, but it was collected all, because now they're backdooring Oracle. Larry Ellison's backdooring all that information straight to the NSA. So I have all your client lists, right? And then the .com thing also was to create this, give all your information to the .coms. So if you're a company, if you're Ford, make a deal with Covisint to give all your parts information to Covisint, or GM. I can't remember. There was a couple of other disintermediaries where they were pushing all the information out. And once the information is out there, it's gone. And that, again, mass formation psychosis on this. Mass formation psychosis.
Yep, just another virus, another bug. It's just a digital bug that's used to implement lockdowns on the planet. But all right, George Webb, that was a great show today. Thank you for your time. Don't forget. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, no, don't forget what? I'm sorry. What should I forget?
Don't forget to go to your George Webb's Twitter page. Hit that buy me a coffee link. Hit that PayPal link. Hit that subscribe to George Webb Substack. I don't see the actual Venmo link on there. Do you even have Venmo, or did they ban you? I know they banned you.
I have Venmo. I think if you do more, it's not on there. I thought it was. Okay.
It just says, or maybe it is at Geo.
If you click the link, yeah, that should be right. Yeah.
Okay. So hit that little at Geo Web link, and it'll take you to Venmo. But support George Webb, support his travels. We will be back Friday at same time, 12 p.m. Noon Eastern. And just a little shout out before we go. Say some prayers for my dad. My dad actually had a little heart incident the other day, and he's in the hospital. He's being forced to retire from his job and everything. But
Wow.
He I guess it just runs in the Dybala family. So if you got some good vibrations and some well wishes in there, send some to my dad because he needs them. He's got some operations coming up.
Your
so.
dad is such a nice man. He is such
Yeah.
a nice person. He is so wonderful. I see where you got it from, Andy. You know,
Yeah.
he really is a wonderful man. You know,
he raised a good son. Could have never asked for a better father, and just want him around a little bit longer. So
Sure.
send some good prayers his way. But once again, George Webb, thank you. We will be back Friday at 12 p.m. noon Eastern, and everyone just keep your eyes open. We got the J6 Capitol Police pipe bomber story. Alina Habba's out. And George Webb was all over the Blackberries in the Ukraine. So if there's one journalist you're going to have to follow in this world, it's the man, way am I pointing here? The man sitting next to me.
and the network.
George
It's the
Webb.
researchers. It's the researchers, Andy. It's the researchers.
Mhm.
It's the researchers. It's the researchers. You're one of them, and a thousand like you. And that's what I just get to be the mouthpiece. So this is the secret of citizen journalism. Yep.
Yeah, thank you to the fraud hodls, the Dave Underdowns, the Animatrix. I don't know how to pronounce half these names on Twitter, but you
Kate
guys send us
Dirksen,
a lot of information that we put up on the show, and we appreciate you sending us all the links, all the research, all the documents, because you guys definitely keep it on the forefront of our minds so that we can present it to you in a way that makes sense. So keep up the good work to all the citizen journalists out there. You are
And the 24th, Andy, the 24th, Albion, Michigan. We're going to win the primary for Trump. Now we got him out of jail. Now he's not going to go to jail now on the 4th because he's going to have a decent lawyer. So now we're going to win the South Carolina primary.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to keep him out of the trap with the stars and bars in South Carolina. We're also going to put him in front of the auto workers in Michigan. So he's going to win Michigan now in the swing state. So we're going to pretty much be responsible for Trump staying out of jail, Trump winning the Michigan primary, and then Trump winning the general election with Ohio and Michigan as the swing states.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a pretty good day. That's a pretty good day.
Trump, Mr. President, you're invited to the charrette. March 20 or February 24th in Albion, Michigan. Come to the theater. We'll put a nice little think tank together. We'll pick you out some solid lawyers. We'll pick you out a nice vice president. You know, you need some good consultation this time around. I think Neighborhood News would be able to provide you some assistance in that area. So come on down, Donald Trump. If you fly the big jet over, there's an airport right around the corner, and you can just pop in for an hour or two. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Andy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, Blackberries matter.
Started seeing like Blackberries, government issued Blackberries. Government issued Blackberries. Government issued Blackberries. They were Blackberries. They were Blackberries. They were Blackberries. Man, this looks like government issued equipment. Man, this looks like government issued equipment. Man, this looks like government issued equipment. Man, this looks like government issued equipment.